Water is well known for being one of the few things you can use to murder a person and hide the body at the same time. But there are also some interesting facts and/or glitches about water and aquatic vehicles in the game GTA 5, and that is what this video is about, which I'm sure you knew, that's why you clicked it. Falling off and then getting on a bike in shallow water causes it to float. If you land a blimp in water, it will float and remain intact. In my testing, one of the engines would consistently survive and spin, but I had no ability to propel myself forward, and getting out of the blimp made it impossible to get back in. Blood does not get washed off cars by driving in the ocean.
Oh, by the way, that's entirely your fault. Wonderful. Yeah, my tax dollar's hard at work.
Boats can drive up waterfalls, surprisingly. Boats need surprisingly little water to propel you forward. They can therefore easily climb up streams with barely enough water to keep your feet wet. This seems to be because the propellers will go under the ground and therefore access the water that is underneath. C4 will immediately explode on contact with water sprayed from a fire hydrant. Chop, for some reason, does not die in small bodies of water.
Here, boy.
This is quite different from larger bodies of water. Oddly, what Chop does in small bodies of water is in part dependent upon FPS. If your FPS is high, he will bob up and down. If it is low, he will walk underwater. The bottom of Devon Weston's pool has collision as normal for everything except weapons for some reason. At the pier, if you stand on this stair in particular, you will dive right into the pier. While it's no longer in the game, on earlier patches of GTA 5, you were able to use mouse controls to flip your boat in very funny ways. If you decline to hang out with a character but then follow after them, they will get hostile.
T, give me a break! Alright, that's enough! Just fuck off!
Alright, you win.
This effect is far more interesting when you attempt to do it in water.
Seriously, fuck off!
Okay, your choice, funny guy. Fuck off, Mikey! Leave me alone!
Hey, relax, homie, you bucking the fuck out.
Whether or not this works seems to depend on how rough the waves are, as sometimes the characters will just die. On the mission Derailed, Michael and Trevor flee with the loot from the train, with Michael driving the boat and Trevor firing at the pursuers. Few people know that you can create a funny little glitch with this scene. If you switch to Michael and stop the boat, then throw a grenade at Trevor, switch to him and then put his power on to survive the grenade, you can then switch back to Michael while Trevor is swimming, and Trevor will warp back into the boat, but once you switch to him, he will maintain his swimming animation.
Can we just enjoy the scenery a minute? The ground forces are on us! I forgot to say, nice outfit! And by nice, I mean lame!
Hey, T, check the coast!
He will maintain this stance even when you're controlling Michael. On this waterway, it is possible to get incredible distance without remaining in the water itself. In first person, if you go swimming with your phone up and then leave the water, your hand will bug out and make it look like you're holding a gun. It is impossible to drown while in a boat or jet ski. This enables you to do something really cool with the cargo carrier at this location. This is actually true of all aquatic vehicles. Going underwater skips dialogue in missions, so it can enable you to complete them far faster, like here on the third way.
Hey, Lester, I dealt with Haynes. You got a location on Devin Weston yet?
Yeah, I do. The Merryweather team was dispatched to protect him at his house in the Tonga Hill.
If you have grass quality set to higher than normal, meaning high, very high or ultra, for some reason grass will appear in a pool at this location. When in water, if you want to know whether helicopters will see you as they fly over, you should watch your map, as going deep enough will give you a black arrow, indicating that you will almost certainly not be detected. The effect itself still works in GTA Online, but you won't see the arrow turn black. Indestructible objects that are lit on fire will not go out when put in water. Interestingly, a fire crew will arrive and attempt to put out the fire, but of course they are unable to. Vehicles that possess lock-on targeting weapons do not traditionally lock onto the train, given that it is invulnerable and thus this would be disruptive. This therefore makes it strange that the Kosatska periscope uniquely locks onto the train for its missiles. The Kosatska submarine in GTA Online freezes and flattens the waves around it when it is called up. At the Maze Bank fountain, you can throw Molotovs without it being affected by the water. However, you can't light a trail of gasoline. You would think this would be consistent for all fountains, but in the FIB fountain, you can throw a Molotov as before, but you can also light a trail of gasoline. It's possible the difference relates to the depth of the water, as the deeper fountain outside the golf club is resistant to Molotovs as well as gasoline. Honestly, it would be better if the water impacted the fire in all cases. On the mission Derailed, we escaped the Merryweather by going down a waterfall and taking a long river journey out to sea. Logically, there is actually another way to escape them, as you can just turn around and drive right back up the waterfall. While this is clearly a more optimal route for escape, unfortunately, this is denied to us, as mission failed text will declare that we have abandoned the pre-approved mission route. This is one of the many instances of Rockstar restricting our gameplay. For reasons unknown, any aquatic vehicle controlled by Michael goes faster. No other vehicle category gets any benefits for being controlled by one character over any other. Comparing the characters swimming on top of water in first person, Michael is clearly the fastest, and this discovery actually led to reroutes for the 100% category. Michael is also slightly faster in third person when on top of water. Michael is also slightly faster underwater in first person. I'm sure it doesn't surprise you to learn that Michael is also faster in third person underwater. At the end of the Merryweather heist, the mini-sub is indestructible. There is a funny little speedrun strat used for the mini-sub mission. It turns out that if you spam F while Trevor is getting into the mini-sub, it won't close the hatch for the sub. At least for as long as you keep pressing accelerate. This results in Trevor being unable to go underwater because the sub is forced to be on the surface. This surprisingly saves 5 seconds in the travel time to drop off the mini-sub, because the more of the mini-sub that is out of the water, the faster it goes because of less water resistance. It just so happens that by having the hatch open, the sub is forced the most it can possibly be above the water's surface. If under normal circumstances you just try and push yourself the most out of the water possible, not only will you at base just be more submerged, but you will also become more submerged over time, as you slowly sink beneath the surface. This is unfortunately only viable as a strategy on the older patch speedrunners use, 1.27, because this patch also has a persistent glitch where there are no waves on the ocean. While you can still perform the trick to keep the hatch open on other patches, the normal waves will eventually push it closed. For reasons unknown, the mini-sub setup caps your ability to get a wanted level at 2 stars, meaning if you arrive with a higher wanted level, it will reduce it to 2. It is also possible to be shot through the glass of the submarine, and yet it will still remain airtight and not fill with water. At this location, there is some misplaced water that creates some unusual effects. This can also enable you to drown on land. For some reason on patch 1.27, after you complete any mission, there will be no waves for the rest of the game unless you reload a save file, and even then, if you complete another mission, the same effect will occur. This is one of the reasons why speedrunners speedrun on this patch. At this location, for whatever reason, there is a peculiar water formation. With any large vehicle, it is possible to get yourself permanently stuck ragdolling and unable to escape. Placing the vehicle in this waterway and getting out results in the water continually buffeting you into your vehicle and door. Your character is now stuck ragdolling, which prevents you from performing any action outside of pausing the game. There is no way to escape this scenario. You can't even change character, thus you must reload. If you attempt to make a phone call when you're even slightly touching water, the phone call will never connect. I will continue to get this busy signal for any call that I make until I slightly walk out of the water again.
You got any cabs available?
You can also attempt to make phone calls while swimming around in the ocean despite not having your phone up, but you will always get this busy signal. If you put a car underwater until it stops working and then take it out of the water, it becomes indestructible. Other than the doors being potentially removed, the car will be fine, although you still can't drive it. A sea shark in the Arcadia Center fountain will levitate once you get on it. Of course, you shouldn't have a sea shark in the fountain in the first place, but if you put one there with a cargo bob, this will happen. Because C4 goes off sequentially and each C4 does not explode other C4, stacking a lot of it in one place can cause some interesting effects. The max C4 you can use at any one time in single player is 20. When you attempt to move too far outside of the map, your vehicle will stop functioning and a shark will be spawned to kill you. Surprisingly, this shark will only attack you when your character is not facing it. As you can see here, the second it is behind Franklin's back, it goes in for the kill. Keeping the shark visible on your screen is insufficient to stop it killing you, as it can still get behind your character's back. If however you constantly face the shark, which is easiest in first person, it will never kill you. I don't think this can really help you get back to shore, but it is interesting nonetheless. There is a spot at the Puerto del Sol Marina that enables you to stand underwater.
This is a voice from your past.
Getting into the mini-sub, starting a hangout with someone, and then switching to that character will have interesting results.
I need some company. You free?
At any height, if you pull your parachute and then release it, you will still survive the fall to the water as long as you are above 70% HP. It should go without saying, but if you don't pull and cut your parachute and you keep it on your back, you will die if you're above 200 feet. When swimming on the surface, first person is considerably faster than third person. Swimming underwater, however, third person is ever so slightly faster than first person. Whether or not it's faster overall to swim underwater in third person or swim on the surface in first person would depend on your level of lung capacity, as obviously when you swim underwater you have to consistently go up for air and go back down again, which loses you speed. The Mission Monkey business has Trevor, Franklin and Michael meet at a pier before breaking into a facility. Using Trevor or Franklin, it is possible to trigger the mission while under this pier for interesting results.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, hey, man.
I was wondering, have you heard from your family?
What's going on, ladies?
Hello, Trevor.
Despite the graphical issues, the cutscene will play as normal, although Franklin will be missing regardless of who you started with. The color eventually does come back, and the boat the characters are meant to get into seems to be invisible.
And you, get in. You're driving.
Go down the coast.
I'm frankly surprised that this was never patched out, but still to this day you can taxi completely off the map and into the ocean. It is possible to get in and ride the boats being carried on trailers by NPCs. They will of course have no way to remove you, so you can go on a joyride as the driver tries in vain to escape you. Here on the map, for some reason, there is a random piece of coral far away from the ocean. It is unlikely to be intentional because if you save and reload, it will often disappear. When underwater, you of course have limited oxygen, but if you change characters, your oxygen meter will be refilled, thus effectively making it infinite. It is possible to stand underwater by using a part of a car. Once you acquire the car pass, all you have to do is shoot it and stand upon it just as it slips into deeper water. You will be carried with it, and your character will act as if they're still on land. You will still be able to make phone calls, for example.
Hello, I am busy changing the world right now, so hit me up later.
Your weapons and the sounds that they produce will still be affected by the water. If you go into waist-high water and fire a rocket downwards, it will float up into the air. At this location, there is some wall and pavement that is interacted with as if it's water, which is honestly the first I've seen of such a misplacement of properties. On the Mission Monkey business, if you arrive while it is raining, the water inside the facility will act as though it is being hit by rain despite it being in cover. The water feature located here in Rockford Hills seems to do nothing that normal water does. No splashes. Doesn't make your character wet. It doesn't even put out fire. In the vault on Prologue, it is possible to climb on a locker, clip out of bounds, and fall below the map into water. There isn't much to do under here, but it fascinates me that despite all my time screwing around in Prologue, I never found this. There is a strange mission fail that very few people would ever get to see on Franklin's side mission Paparazzo, the sex tape. After recording the couple on the table, Franklin is meant to run forward off to the cars with Beverly. If instead you take a detour to the pools and jump in some water, you fail due to ruining the footage. Initially, this may appear to make sense, but if you look closely, the footage gets ruined the second Franklin's toes touch the water. Amazingly, if Franklin even goes through a puddle of water, this will destroy the film in his camera that he's holding around his chest. On the mission Did Somebody Say Yoga, there is a cutscene with Michael involving aliens, which concludes with him flying over Los Santos. If during this sequence you fly and land in Michael's pool, Michael will wake up with his shorts being wet. This is strange considering that no other body of water achieves this effect, just the pool at his house.
Jimmy, you little shit. Jimmy, you little shit.
GTA 5 has quite a few underwater oddities that most people never get to see when they play the game. For example, the cargo plane west of Fort Zancudo. The plane west of Paleto Bay. The crop duster east of Mount Gordo. The plane east of the port of Los Santos. The Merriweather cargo plane. The tugboat east of the Sanchiansky mountain range. The tugboat northeast of Mount Gordo. The tugboat west of Lago Zancudo. The cargo ship east of Noose. The shipwreck southeast of Elysian Islands. The paddleboat east of the Palomino Highlands. The decompression tank south of Pacific Bluffs. The whale skeleton west of Banham Canyon. The UFO crash north of Procopio Beach. The tire graveyard west of Chumash. The submarine wreck north of Mount Gordo. The military debris east of Humane Labs, the underwater hatch with a Morse code reference to GTA 4, and lastly, the Paleto Bay Islands bodies, which are the victims of the Infinity Killer. Cayo Perico, the only new area Rockstar has added to GTA Online in over 10 years, has many oddities around and beneath its water that few ever get to see. For example, west of the map, right below the two small islands, you'll find a submarine wreck. Under the southwestern tip of the island, there is a whale skeleton. Around the southmost point of the map, you can find a military ship and tank wreck. In the northwestern part of the map above the airfield, you can find an FIB plane. East of the northern dock, you can find a passenger plane crash. Along the beach with the abandoned pier, you can find a beached whale. Along the same coast of the beached whale, in an opening behind the two small islands, there's a human skeleton with drugs. At the most western point from the northern dock, there is another whale skeleton, but this one has an alien egg. At the most eastern point of the map, there's a meteor. Off the northern coast, there's a paddle boat wreck. Alongside the southern coast and drainage tunnel, there's a bunch of dead bodies. The Loch Ness monster can be found in multiple locations. This is the one around the northern dock. If you attempt to approach, there'll be an explosion and it will disappear.
Captain, I do not want to worry, but there is something out there. Long-range scanners are picking up something big. On the surface, from movement patterns, I would say it is... Never mind. It is an old friend of mine.
For some reason, this disappearing act is actually just the Loch Ness monster being thrown under the map.
Captain, I do not want to worry.
Near the security checkpoint above the main dock, there is a dead shark. Near the semi-islands between the main dock and the guest party, there's a helicopter crash. North of that helicopter crash, you can find the partygoer skeleton. Interestingly, having the same backpack as Michael had on the mission friend request. On the small island west of the main dock, you can find medieval armor. At the southeastern tip of the island, you can find this random shelter. And just down from the communications tower, you can find this steel cage. At the end of the mission, Daddy's little girl, Michael and Tracy escape on a jet ski, before Jimmy and Tracy take off, leaving Michael smoking at the pier. You might have noticed that Dr. Freelander's office is very close by. If you run to his office for a therapy session, after you complete the session, the jet ski Michael previously escaped on will appear out the front. Rockstar's desire to always give you a vehicle to get around with doesn't really work out in this case. I'm sure all those amazing facts and glitches have convinced you that being under the water is the best place to be, and good news, you can actually spend the rest of your life underwater, as long as you're okay with it being a fairly short life. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best.